Hello there. Your days of eating meat and dairy products are fast coming to an end. There you go. Net zero means killing things. The Irish government has plans to cull nearly 200,000 dairy cows for the sake of net zero. Yes, it's emerged that Dublin is working on a so far voluntary scheme to get dairy herd farmers to quit the business and cull their livestock, with figures of 65,000 cattle a year to go for 3 years. And this would take something like 10 to 12.5% out of Ireland's 1.55 million dairy cows, all to please the eco-fanatics. You know, like the ones from Animal Rising that stole 3 lambs from Appleton Farm to save them from slaughter. So I assume a crowd of them will be off to Ireland to save those 200,000 cattle. Yeah, right. Now, unless they know how to re-engineer cows' innards for higher productivity, one has to assume this will reduce Ireland's dairy production by about 10 to 12.5% as well. Less milk, cheese and butter for the people of Ireland, and less of it to export to countries like the UK. You just need to check out your local supermarket to see how much of our dairy does come from Ireland. 100 years ago, the hated black and tans were destroying Irish creameries, and today the Irish government is the one restricting the dairy trade. Now, you will already know that the Netherlands, the world's second biggest agricultural exporter after the USA, is already on course to shut down 3,000 of its farms and cull 30% of its cattle. And now Ireland is doing the same sort of thing. And Canada has shut down some salmon farms and is also putting in place restrictions that will force farmers to reduce their output. And in the US, farming has been in decline for a long time through urbanisation, and more recently through a Biden scheme to pay farmers to leave an extra 4 million acres of farmland fallow to help the environment. Since 2015, the US farmland acreage has decreased by 12.39 million acres. And would you believe that the US population has risen by 20 million in the last decade or so? 20 million more people to feed. Now, interestingly, Australia is looking to use things like low-emission livestock feed derived from seaweed to reach their target. And their Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Chris Bowen, says there will be no need to cut production and cattle numbers. So why are the Netherlands and Ireland culling cattle? Now, this is all part of the Global Methane Pledge that 122 countries have signed up to, including the UK, the US and the EU. And that pledge is to reduce methane emissions by at least 30% of 2020 levels by, you guessed it, 2030. There's that 2030 date again. Agricultural food production is being slowly strangled across the planet. But they're not replacing it with anything useful like maybe permaculture. No, I think the aim is to divert our reliance on food away from the traditional farmyard and into corporately controlled insect farms and factory-manufactured Frankenstein foods. They want to take food production away from the land, so making it difficult for people to produce their own food. Because they know that whoever controls the food supply controls the people. Totally. And if the people are trapped in small neighbourhoods with little opportunity to travel, then all the better. And as the UK has signed up to this, you can bet your cotton socks will soon be seeing the same thing here. although judging by the numbers, the UK has not increased its cattle numbers in line with population growth for years, for some reason or other. Anyway, the government's own figures tell us that we're falling behind on the methane promise our government made for us. So the numbers will have to start coming down. But I'm sure the government will try to keep any such move to cull as quiet as possible. But with the government also actively inviting people in so that we have another 500,000 net mouths to feed every year, what is the justification for such a cull? Because all those people who moved here brought their carbon and methane footprints with them. Surely we should be increasing the methane target to compensate for that, wouldn't you think? But no, we won't, especially when Keir I Love Davos Starmer gets into number 10. And we can therefore expect to see prices for naturally produced wholesome meats to stay high into the future, to be gradually replaced by cheaper, for now, soy and factory Frankenstein replacements. And the prices of meats are beginning to squeeze people, with reports of shoplifting on the increase. And M&S is putting on a very limited display of meat for sale at the moment, due to so many cases of people clearing the shelves and quickly scarpering. If you want meat, you have to ask the staff for it. And in one co-op, dummy jars of coffee were spotted. It won't be long before we're queuing up at the shop counter, just like we did before the advent of the likes of Tesco. But gas prices have plunged, and the price of diesel and petrol has come down. So where's all this extra expense coming from for food, especially meat? Surely they should start coming down in price quite quickly and soon. But the messages coming out of government is to expect food price inflation to stay for quite a while longer. Richard.
So a certain daytime television programme and its presenters have fallen into disrepute because, well, we all know what's happened there and it's pretty disgusting to say the least. But what gets to me is how the programme in question and similar programmes of its ilk have been taken so seriously for so long by the public. I'm not going to talk about, or I'm not going to get into specifics about the programme or those involved because I believe it hides the elephant in the room. And that is, these programmes and their presenters pushed a certain procedure onto the public in a relentless tirade of government propaganda. This procedure pushed by unsaid programmes and presenters has now been exposed as, well, not what it was sold as. And much evidence points towards it being the cause of many people leaving us early. But no investigation is taking place into these moronic daytime television programmes and their presenters who were pushing it. As much as I am not surprised to hear of the dodgy doings by these high-powered people in the media, those of us with half a brain all know what clique these people belong to, I still think these people who masqueraded as journalists are nothing more than charlatans who present narratives handed to them by the editorial and are not to be listened to and trusted on anything. Do you remember many of those so-called journalists and brain-dead television presenters? Do you remember them telling us that those who don't comply with a certain thing should be basically removed from society and treated like third-class citizens? That's the real issue that's been swept under the carpet. Yesterday I bumped into a musician friend of mine who told me about someone who had departed very suddenly after he left the stage after performing, which is just awful. And no, I don't know the cause of this sudden departure, what caused it. But however, this is one of many such reports I am hearing with increased regularity. Yet there is no investigation into these people leaving us suddenly. Now, this is a bit of a coincidence because I was about to end this video here. But I just found out that another musician and dear friend of mine has left us early. and I'm a bit numb and lost for words, and I don't want to say any more really, because his life was more than his sudden ending, and I have very fond and happy memories of a true gentleman, somebody I knew since I was 16 years of age and who encouraged me as a musician. He was a fellow bass player. Yeah, I'm a bass player. Well, I was. Anyway, yeah. It's quite funny because he really did encourage me in music, and the other day I was looking at how many views this channel has had, and we're approaching 100 million views, and almost every one of those videos has got a little piece of music that I wrote. It's the intro music for this channel. And yeah, that's like 100 million streams. But it was thanks to him and a few other people like him who encouraged me just to do music. So very sad that he's gone. Anyway, what do you lot think about what Jeff and I have had to say in this video? And leave your pearls of wisdom in the comment section below. And we will see you again tomorrow around the 7 p.m. mark. Yeah, take a little look at our merch. You might find something of interest there. Anyway, take care, you lot. See you tomorrow.